I am Rahul Chaudhary, Military Intelligence Analyst in Global Eye Intelligence. Today, I got the opportunity to host this session, and our guest for this session is Major General Ravi Murugan, Param Visist Seva Medal, Ati Visist Seva Medal. General Murugan was an outstanding officer starting from his career, as he was awarded President's Gold Medal and Sword of Honor for standing first in merit and best all-rounder gentleman cadet of his course in Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, and then commissioned into 8th Battalion, Brigade of the Guards on 13th of June 1987. The key highlights of his illustrious career were: he served as Defense and Military Attaché in Embassy of India in Washington, D.C., Additional Director General Military Operations in Army Headquarters, Delhi, General Officer Commanding Counter-Insurgency Force Delta or the Delta Force RR in J&K. His last appointment was General Officer Commanding of Karnataka and Kerala Sub-Area in Bangalore. And thereafter, he hanged his boots on 30th of June 2024. After such an illustrious career and battle-hardened career, we are all here to talk on the topic India-US Defense Corporation Ecosystem. The stage is over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I hope you can hear me now. I hope I'm not in mute.
No, sir. You're absolutely fine, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. And firstly, thank you, Global Eye Intelligence, for inviting me on this forum. Again, thank you for the participation. There are a number of participants who are listening to this. And it is indeed a pleasure to be invited to speak on a subject of Indo-US cooperation, especially defense cooperation, for the simple reason that the US is the single superpower in the world today. It's a superpower both in terms of military terms, it's a superpower in terms of economic terms. And, this is something, when I was DA in USA, I used to say that, we grew up in a time during the Cold War. So when I was a child, and every family, the aspiration of every family, middle-class family in India, was to send a child to the US. So it has always been a beacon. And many of you are, in fact, fully aware as to what kind of contours this defense cooperation and now Indo-US cooperation is taking. However, I will try and speak on this for some time. But I look forward to the interaction subsequently. I think that would add more value. So primarily, the Indo-US relations have gone through dramatic shifts. This is because of dramatic shifts in both global politics, regional security dynamics, and changing mutual strategic interests. So to understand where we are today, it is essential to look back at the origins of the India-US relations in the defense arena. And for this, you have to go back to the Cold War period. Post the Second World War, when the world got divided into camps, one led by the US and one led by erstwhile Soviet Union. And you had something called, the NATO Pact came up with the US, and the Warsaw Pact came up led by the Soviet Union. Then Soviet Union, and now, of course, Soviet Union broke up subsequently in the 90s. But at that time, India took the path that we will remain non-aligned. In fact, we are one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement. And we said we will not select sides. As soon as we took that call, that decided that we would be adversarial in terms of I wouldn't say physically adversarial, but in terms of policies, it would be viewed as being adversarial to the US. And we were viewed as being part of the Soviet camp. And you were aware of the fact that post-1971 war, we signed a friendship treaty with the Soviet Union. And that further alienated or further increased the divide between India and US. So this continued during the Cold War. The decades of the Cold War continued, wherein one inflection point actually in India-US relations was our 1974, nuclear test, which put us on the wrong side of the NPT, and we faced continuing sanctions based on those nuclear tests, which lasted multiple decades. So, if you ask anybody today, about the US, especially people of my generation and before me, they will say that the US was adversarial to us. Why? Because in the 1971 war, one incident everybody quotes, because it is so alive in people's imagination of that generation, is that when we were during the 1971 Indo-Pak War, the US sailed its Seventh Fleet, and in fact, USS Enterprise, came towards into the Bay of Bengal, and as a for strategic posturing, and that was viewed as hostile intent by us because there was an ongoing war which was going on, and then the Soviet Union also sailed its ships, and that we viewed as a supportive gesture. So if you ask people of that generation, they always view the US a little more suspiciously. However, in the 1990s, when this whole liberalization took place and strategic realignment took place, at that time the Soviet Union collapsed and split up into multiple countries, with Russia being the major constituent now. The relationship started to change. And when the relationship was changing, we then went in for a second nuclear test in 1999. And that brought in, again, multiple sanctions against us because we went back into, being, we are not a signatory to the NPT, and we became a nuclear power. And that automatically triggered sanctions again. And then, to my mind, actually, the single event which actually brought India-US strategic alignment together was the global war on terror. Post the 9/11 incident and the Twin Towers coming down, the US realized that if you want a rules-based order, you require countries which follow a rules-based order and with which it has synergy. So till then, to fight the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, the US had aligned with Pakistan. And Pakistan was a favored country as far as the US goes militarily because it had its interests in ensuring that its venture or its actions in Afghanistan led to the movement out of Soviet Union, and that succeeded. So Pakistan leveraged that geostrategic location as also the ability, to dictate events in Afghanistan to remain important for the US. But once the global war on terror started, India became a natural partner with the US because we were facing, ours was an ongoing battle which was going on in terms of the proxy war in J&K, and as also other efforts by Pakistan to destabilize India in terms of supports to various violent and insurgent movements. And the next point after the global war on terror, which actually the global war on terror alignments led to what came next, which entire credit should go probably to the George Bush Jr. government, wherein the civil nuclear deal was signed with the US. This was in 2008. Work was for continued. The negotiations continued over 2 to 3 years. In 2008, the civil nuclear deal was signed, and that changed the entire paradigm of Indo-US strategic and security cooperation. And once we were accepted as a formal nuclear power, and the US went out of its way in terms of inclusion as a nuclear power which is not signed the NPT, and the separation of the use of nuclear power for military systems and the civil nuclear use, the rigid separation which happened, they allowed the flexibility of placing the civil nuclear facilities under stringent oversight while keeping the military separate, the use of nuclear technology for military weapon systems separate. And that led to then the framework for defense cooperation which happened. These were near simultaneous. The framework of defense cooperation was signed actually before the civil nuclear deal. And then subsequently, the entire, as I said, the paradigm changed. The DTTI came up in 2012. That is the first, formal interaction defense, trade and technology initiative. And then subsequent to that in 2015, we signed the next iteration of framework for defense cooperation. Then we got the status of a major defense partner to the US. We were the only country which was not a NATO ally to be conferred the status of major defense partner. And once you got the major defense partner status, the US made efforts to amend its ITAR regulations. By ITAR regulations, it is the export of weapon systems, the export of technology which takes place that has again stringent guidelines and oversight. The US tweaked that, relaxed it so that we were able to receive that the technologies and the weapon systems we thought necessary for ensuring our security. And then we became members of there are multiple exercises. So if you look at Indo-US defense cooperation now, you can look at it in three different verticals. The first one, when you look at it, is a strategic alignment. So we view our strategic interests by and large are the same. There are challenges, we'll talk about that later, but overall, when you look at the strategic interests, they are the same. We are, again, both are rules-based order we follow. Both are, democracy. The US is the oldest constitutional democracy. We are the largest constitutional democracy. We have, a diaspora in the US, which is, officially maybe 5 million, but unofficially, I'm sure it is over 7 million. So it is a large diaspora there. And this large diaspora punches well above its weight. When you look at the Indian Americans in the US, their influence is disproportionate to their numbers because they come from a socio-economic strata wherein all are qualified professionals. All of them hold positions of influence. So we are an extremely, maybe after the Jewish lobby, maybe the Indian lobby, maybe one of the most powerful lobbies in the US. So when you look at the strategic alignment, Indo-Pacific, the US changed its PACOM Pacific Command to an Indo-Pacific Command to highlight the importance of India in the Indo-Pacific region. We became part of the Quad. We were never the part of the quadrilateral and the alignment of countries and the grouping of countries, which are primarily to ensure that there is no unilateral dominance of the Indo-Pacific region. So we are a participant in the Quad because there are interests which align with the Quad members. So strategic alignment was the first domain, and we got into that. Second, when you look at it, is interoperability. So for interoperability and sharing of information, we signed all the 4 basic agreements which every close partner of US has to sign in case we want to share intelligence, we want to share technology, we want to use communications for operational purposes. So you're aware of the GISMOA was signed in 2002, then you had the LEMOA, then you had the COMCASA, then finally you had the BECA, which was signed in 2020. So all the 4, and the Industrial Security Annex, which allows a production of US systems in India, that was signed as an annex. So all the required agreements and the facilitating features for Indo-US security cooperation, that was done so that the cooperation could become far closer. So based on this interoperability, we started also, we have been exercising with the US for long. We have, the Army runs its own exercises with the US as an Indo-US regular annual feature. The Air Force has its exercise with the US again as an annual feature. The Navy has its, so all 3 services exercise with their counterparts. In fact, in the last 2 years, we have started a tri-service exercise with the US. So the second component of military to military cooperation has been strong. It has been made stronger. The third aspect is of technology. Now, this is where actually a lot of issues come up. And the Defense Trade and Technology Initiative, which was established primarily for co-development and co-production, didn't really, manifest as it was envisaged for a simple reason. And the simple reason is the US views DTTI as a Defense Technology and Trade, Defense Trade and Technology Initiative. And we view DTTI as a Defense Technology and Trade Initiative. We are looking at technology coming in, and then trade happening. They look at trade happening and as a fallout, technology going in, because they are looking at it primarily from a commercial aspect. And why do they do that? It is because all the technology resides in private companies. The government is not a custodian of technology. In the US capitalist system, and the power of the US is because technology is in the private sector. And if you ask General Electric that I want hot engine technology, General Electric says, why should I give you hot engine technology? You become a competitor. It doesn't matter as to what you are. I mean, we don't give it to our closest allies. So technologies which are critical, in fact, the term they use is family jewels. If these are family jewels, why should I hand it over to you because you're buying 100 aircraft? So that is not the, because the commitment in R&D is so high, you buying 100, 200 aircraft does not pay for that technology. That technology is an enduring competitive advantage they have. Till the time somebody is able to indigenously grow it, they are the single providers of it. So that has been one of the major issues. We will talk about it in the challenges. So, but having said that, as far as defense procurements go, that has taken off from 2010 onwards. It has, I think, touched $20 billion or so, or even more from then till now. So you had weapon systems and platforms which have which provide you a distinct advantage in the regional neighborhood, whether it be the P-8I maritime surveillance aircraft, whether it be the C-17 strategic lift capability, C-130 tactical lift capability, the M777, which is a portable mobile howitzer, 155 millimeters. So you name it, the systems, even now, the small arm which the frontline infantry has in the Indian Army is a 6-AWR, which is a US-based system. So procurements and weapon systems, and now, of course, we have signed the Sea Guardian deal. And, wherein you're getting, I'm not too sure about the numbers, maybe I think over 25 Sea Guardians, which would be coming in. And these would be, in terms of both surveillance, ISR, as also the ability to arm them. These become provide you a clear, distinct superiority in the regional battle space. So in terms of procurements, there has been no issues. There has been no stoppage because of the close and the proximity of Indo-US relations. I'm just checking the time so that we have time for discussion. So, but having said that, the aspect of technology which we have been looking at in terms of transfers, co-development, that hasn't really happened. So when we come to challenges in Indo-US defense cooperation, while rest of it is going well, there are, to my mind, two major challenges. The first one, of course, is the elephant in the room. That is our relationship with Russia. Right? When Russia and India go back a long way, and Russia and India have a very, very close defense relationship in terms of equipment and weapon systems, because they have been supplying over 90% of our platforms and weapon systems post-independence. And even now, maybe over 70% of the platforms which we operate are of Russian origin. And they have been steadfast in their support to India in both in terms of regional dynamics as well as global support over a period of time. So when you look at all that, you cannot dehyphenate. India faces the challenge wherein they are required to dehyphenate from Russia in case you want to hyphenate to the US. But that has not been our stand, both diplomatically and politically. In terms of geostrategy, we say we value strategic autonomy. So there is no question of dehyphenation and hyphenation. We follow an independent path in terms of the national security calculus, wherein we align with countries wherein our strategic interests converge. And happily, we say that our strategic interests converge with a relationship with Russia. It also converges with a relationship with the US, which puts us in an enviable position wherein we can talk to both parties, and we can be used as a bridge for in various conflicts which are ongoing globally. because of this unique status of ours. However, that doesn't really gain much traction when it gets discussed in US strategic communities, wherein they accuse you of playing to both sides and benefiting from both. So that is one challenge which keeps cropping up, and you're all aware of the S400 system. They gave us an exception in that, but then that exception, which allowed that first regiment to come in, that comes up for review periodically, and at any time it can fall foul of US laws, which says that trading with a country which has been banned or which has been designated as under sanctions can lead to sanctions on you also. So that becomes one major challenge. And the second major challenge has been the lack of co-develop. I mean, the so-called technology transfers, which we had been expecting for decades. We've been wanting, from the time that we opened up with the US, let's say early or late 2000s, till now, we've been looking at co-development, co-production of at least one technology, of which we have been seeking that, and nothing has happened. And to my mind, this also will remain an issue which is not going to get resolved anytime soon, because, as I said, technology is power today. And when you look at comprehensive national power, the conventional acronym DIME, diplomacy, information, military, economy, you have to add technology to DIME, because technology decides your economic heft today. We are in the information age, and technology decides your economic heft today. Technology decides your military capability today. So if somebody has to give you technology purely out of the goodwill of their heart, that is not going to happen. If somebody has to give you technology because you say, I will buy your weapon system, that is not going to happen. So this is one thing, to my mind, it's a personal view. I think these are unrealistic expectations from the Indian side. It's unrealistic for the simple reason that every country which has a technological capability has grown it indigenously. Nobody has got it given on a platter, because nobody will give it. It is like, even let's say you all are in the same organization and you have a skill in something, you're not going to pass that skill to your co-worker, because it takes away your uniqueness and your competitive advantage. So that is the same rationale which works within countries. So while we can go ahead with buying state-of-art weapon systems, but we will have to indigenously grow technologies. And there is one example which I give, which is very apt in this. The reason why we have such unrealistic expectations, to my mind, is this. I come from a time wherein we had to stand in line. You have to give your name for a telephone connection. I'm talking about, the line telephone connections. Telephone connections used to be a rarity. You had to wait a long time, exactly like you have to wait for Bajaj Chetak for 2 years to buy a Bajaj Chetak at that time. So you had to wait in line to get a telephone connection. Now, internet penetration in the US was primarily through landline telephone connections. Right? So the entire population, or large significant number of that population, had internet accessibility. Why? Because they all had line connections, telephone connections. Now, when we look at it, we should have also, if we wanted internet connection, everybody should have telephone line connection. But you had the mobile technology revolution which happened. So you could leapfrog the requirement for a line telephone connection, and you went straight to a mobile phone which gave you access into the internet. So you were able to afford leapfrogging at that time, but you can't afford leapfrogging in defense technology. You have to grow capability in metallurgy. You have to grow capability in internal combustion engine. You have to grow capability in propellant technology. You have to grow capability in optical imaging. That has to be there, because it is not being handed over to you. And even, let's take this example of, even, let's say the US hands over the technology to you. Let's say stealth capability. Can we absorb that technology if we do not have at least a foundation of capability in that particular technology? Do we even know what it would entail? Do we even know what we would need to be done? So both for technology absorption as also for technology evolution, you have to have indigenously grown technology. So this we cannot really leapfrog. This will have to be done. And only once that is done, the second and third aspect kicks in. That is, exchange is only between equals or near equals. When we go to seek something from somebody, we should be able to provide something in lieu. So if I'm giving something in lieu, I'm able to then seek something in return. So you have to grow certain niche capabilities. And one good thing is, in information age technologies, we are not far behind. We are nearly shoulder to shoulder. In industrial age technologies, we are behind. So if you have capability in AI, if you have capability in back-end software, if you have capability, as I said, in our ability to use information age technologies to benefit, then we bring to the table something which the other party also desires, and you are able to then get some kind of technology boost from an industrial age or the technologies which you seek. So that is to my mind, these are two major challenges. Yes, there are political challenges which will happen when dispensations. The good thing about Indo-US defense cooperation is that Indo-US relationship has bipartisan support in the US. Indo-US relationship has near unanimous support, even in India. So if politically both sides, there is support for both sides to be closer, then it will happen. There is going to be friction. There will be, case by case, issue by issue frictions, but that will get handled as as mature democracies deal with that. There would be give and take. There would be certain compromises on both sides. And as long as our strategic alignments are converged, this interoperability and our ability to work together with the US military will only grow. And the day we are able to also field systems, weapons, platforms which are comparable, if not the same as the US systems, then that is the time where you would be also be able to work, with synergies in terms of in the military domain. So I would like to stop here because, as I said, this is a subject which has been much written on. It has been, there is a lot of literature available with it in terms of Indo-US cooperation. But I'm happy to discuss this in case there are any questions and there are any views which you would like to share and you want my comments. I'm very happy to discuss that. So I have finished. I would like to stop here and I look forward to discussions.
Actually, I have a question which has two parts. How does India benefit from US satellite intelligence and space-based surveillance systems under BECA? And part two is, what is the role of India and US in countering cyber threats and electronic warfare capabilities, especially in face of China and Pakistan?
Right. So firstly, as far as BECA goes, it allows you sharing of information. And that is, by the way, it has been happening. It is both during the Northern Border crisis, even during Kargil time, while I'm not sharing any state secrets, but even during Op Vijay, information was shared by the US through their various representatives, because I was in a headquarters at that time which viewed this. So BECA allows you greater sharing because now, the confidentiality of that information is being protected. So, and as I said, that is ongoing. So BECA is a facilitative mechanism. First, the intent is to share. So the intent to share has always been there, and BECA facilitates the sharing of that information, whether it be satellite imaging, digital mapping, all that gets now shared through, US platforms, whichever it's. So that's a good thing. Now, your second question was, sorry, I missed out.
What is the role of India and US in countering cyber threats?
Cyber. Now, one thing you have to, once you're talking about non-conventional, non-traditional threats, that's a different one. That is in terms of what is happening in a no war, no peace scenario. So if we are now in a peacetime scenario, or as we like to call it, a no war, a no peace, because there are inimical interests which are trying to work against a country, then it is not peace in its typical definition. So if it's a no war, no peace scenario, as far as electronic warfare goes, there is virtually zero sharing which happens now, because that is a more an operational requirement. Electronic warfare as such, in the electromagnetic spectrum, it is in the operational domain. That is one area where we have actually found it difficult to get both the systems for EW and leveraging the EM spectrum to our advantage, and to deny it to an adversary's advantage. We have been having a problem even getting the equipment for it. So there is even the competencies in terms of courses. We subscribe to certain courses of EW, which the US runs, but those are extremely basic courses. Because nobody, it is like this, I would like to highlight one conversation I had. When I was a defense attaché there, we were trying for a sniper course, right? In the US. I have no idea. See, my time was 5 years before, so I have no idea whether it has happened now. So at that time, when we were asking for a sniper course, they were not giving us a sniper course. So when I asked the person dealing with it, why aren't you giving a sniper course? He says, we have had issues before, because sniper is a strategic weapon system. It is not a tactical weapon system. So sniper, if we have trained people who have used it against us. So we don't want to now, we are extremely careful about certain areas where we provide training and we provide competencies. EW is the other area. They are not free at all. They are extremely restrictive as to who comes for their advanced courses, where they are actually working on equipment and they are working on philosophies. They are working on actual functionalities. So that they are extremely, so again, I only would like to highlight one thing. These are competencies you will have to grow. There is no question of somebody training you to become, a very powerful entity. It doesn't happen like that. A lot of it has to be grown. So EW is one area which you are highlighted. We don't cooperate too much on that. We should try our best to try and get more exposure to it. We are now looking at, if I'm not wrong, we are looking at alternative sources. And hopefully through those alternative sources, we will gain adequate familiarity. And after that, we will have to layer it with our homegrown expertise. But as far as the US goes, to my mind, we do not have a very elaborate and close interaction as far as EW goes. And social media and cyber security, I don't think there is any such cooperation which is happening right now, other than during intelligence sharing. There are annual intelligence sharing. In that, where there are issues which lead to certain information which is of value to India, it is shared. And similarly, from our side, we share that. So there are exchange of information which happens, and if it is particular to India, it gets shared to us. And if it is particular to the US and we are privy to that, it gets shared with the US. But are we jointly doing something? To my mind, I don't think there is any joint program of this which is ongoing.
Okay. So, sir, how do you see the India-US defense cooperation evolving in next 10 years, especially with Quad and AUKUS development?
Yeah. So I think India is only going to become better and closer. Right now, the frequency of our engagements are going to increase. To my mind, okay, let's start again. As far as the Indo-Pacific goes, I think the Quad and the Indo-Pacific, we are, as it is, a part of it. Ours is a more cooperative arrangement. We view it as a more cooperative, rather than an information sharing arrangement, rather than a security arrangement, right? The Quad wants us as part of their security architecture too. So there would be certain middle ground being tread on this in terms of, a lot of it, to my mind, is semantics. It is because, in diplomatic terminologies, there are certain things you cannot say out aloud. There are certain things, you cannot voice. So, but the cooperation there is because it is to our strategic interests that we are part of the Indo-Pacific, and we have certain concerns in the Indo-Pacific. We want the Quad's activity also coming to the Indian Ocean. right? So being part of the Quad allows us to voice those concerns. It allows us to also tweak activities which are more in tune with our specific security concerns. And for that, we will also have to partake in the Quad security concerns. If we want them to be part of be sensitive to our security concerns, then we should also be sensitive to theirs, and probably the activities would get synergized. But that is going to only become closer. Military to military engagement in terms of frequencies and events, to my mind, is going to only increase. Because I, as an individual, believe that we have a lot to offer to the US in terms of military competencies. Niche fighting in certain domains, in certain terrains. We have areas wherein we have, over a period of time, gained competency on how to operate there. So those are areas where the US itself is keen on gaining competency. So we have something to offer. Military to military interoperability, we have something to offer in return. They are keen on that. So that is only, so this aspect which I said of sniper, EW, all that is going to fall. Ultimately, we will be exposed to their capabilities in this, because when we put on the table what we are offering in giving them exposure to, they will automatically reciprocate to what we would want them to give us window into. So that military to military is going to increase. Weapon procurements will happen, because whatever said and done, it's a technology leader, right? You can't get better technology than what the US has. The only problem is, are they offering it to you or not? They will offer you systems which you can buy. Whether they will offer, and that will come with its own issues, end user agreements and various other monitoring oversights. So whether you are going to get technology along with it, if you ask me, in 10 years, I don't think that is a realistic expectation. The technology which you use, please, we will have to indigenously grow capability in that. But whether you get it, they make it. My point is that, that we had a roundtable on this earlier in an event, and that I said there are certain technologies that the US would be, if not keen, it will be amenable to sharing, because those are technologies it has outgrown. It has better technologies than that now. But for us, even the one which is a lower technology in a particular area, we would still be interested in it, because ultimately your foundation is on which you are going to grow capability, right? So those technologies you can probably seek, and you may get also in terms of commercializing it by paying for whatever systems which you buy. So those we will get closer. But if you're looking at being current with technology and growing capability along with them, that is unlikely to happen, if you look at it realistically. But some technologies, yes, definitely those are viable, and that can be identified very easily. And even that is useful to us. I'm now going into area where I'm extending myself. But my personal view is, if you get a 4.5 generation fighter, and along with it and the entire technology of it, you should still go with it, because then it grows ecosystem. It grows subsidiary industries. It grows ancillary capacities. It grows a whole board of engineers who get trained on it. After that, for you to go from 4 point, may take 15 years, but for you to go from 4.5 to 6, you have a foundation in which you can grow it. So that takes a lot of, very far-sighted, and the 4.5 may be just a notch below. It is not completely, it's not levels below. It may just be a notch below, 5+ generation fighter. So for that, we will have to make those decisions which help us in the long term.
Okay, sir. Sir, we are now open for the questions from the audience.
Yeah.
So guys, you can ask the question to sir.
If anybody is left, they seem to have gone.
So we have people. I think all are educated by your talk, sir.
Or all were already experts.
Yes. So we are now like to conclude the session, and we are very grateful you gave us such a precious time to sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. All the
Okay.
best.
Thank you, sir.